Okay, so we're gonna do major story time right now. And like these are the stories that I share with clients. Like I want them to know like I've been in it, and I'm learning too, and I'm always gonna be learning, and that's important to me. Um, so anywho, doing this self-pleasure course, right? So story time about my history with sex. This is gonna make a lot of sense, I think, and resonate with a lot of people. I started off 16 years old having sex for the first time, and it was with someone who really was much more experienced than me and similar ages, and really taught me everything, right? And it wasn't a great situation. And ultimately what happened is I went to college. He was dishonest. He was just whatever, we were both where we were at in life. And I was like, wow, if that was love, I don't want anything to fucking do with this. Little did I realize at the time, like, I didn't have a working definition of love. I didn't know what love felt like from the way that I was raised. Like, I was very uncomfortable in my body, which was interesting because I would say I was both very comfortable in my body, but also very uncomfortable in my body, like comfortable in sports and moving around and like being strong, but uncomfortable in the sense, or like feeling sexy sometimes, but uncomfortable in the sense of like intimacy while in my body. And what ended up happening was I went to college and I was like, I became like I was coming from wounded feminine energy when I was in relationships after that one. I didn't have another boyfriend until senior year of college. And I can really see how I was coming from like the manipulative, seductress energy of the wounded feminine of like, okay, like in order to keep this man, I need to be like really sexually charged. And like, I am a sexually charged person. Like, that's facts. But like, I didn't have like this divine feminine energy radiating from me in sexual energy. It was like I was really tapped into like this masculine version of it, of like I'm the aggressor, like I'm in overdrive, I always want to have sex, blah blah blah. So it was coming from this wounded place, and I didn't understand that. And I just knew though, like it felt very lustful, and like it ultimately didn't feel very intimate when I was having sex. But like if you have no baseline of like what your definition of love is and how you want to be treated and what love feels like what are you gonna do? Like this is all stuff that you learn through your healing journey. So in college, I was kind of the aggressor, like in my masculine energy, in a sense of like, I'm just gonna go have sex with people and I'm gonna be numb about it. I'm not gonna have any feelings. And it kind of just gave me like, looking back, like this sense of control, right? But ultimately what ended up happening was, although I didn't feel like I was using my body negatively back then, as time went on, and especially after the relationship that ended in 2019, where I really developed this trauma around my body being used because of the way that relationship was. It's heavy. That relationship really made me feel like my body was very used. And because there was high highs and low lows, and every time we got an argument, he would always want to have sex after. And it was just like, there was a lot of trauma that comes from that relationship. And then the relationships after that were very similar to that. And I would get this like sick feeling of like, these people just use my body. Like, this is disgusting. And it's like, I can feel it like right now. It's like visceral in me, right? And that becomes very hard. Like, this is making me emotional. Because in this self-pleasure course and everything I'm doing, like I'm reconnecting to my body, and it brings up stuff like that. It's like, wow, like I did just not have these boundaries with people, and I didn't know what safety felt like. So I rushed and I went into physical intimacy because that was familiar to me, and it made me feel like maybe I had some control, or like maybe if I connected that way, maybe deep down inside I thought like that would be helpful for the relationship, like whatever. And like I didn't have a working definition of love. I had no clue what I was looking for in a partner. So it was like, whatever. And after multiple experiences like that, where I just felt like these people like did not respect who I was, they didn't respect anything about me, and my body just got used, it was like, yeah, this like can't go on. And so that's really been the history for me, like until present day moment. And like I realized after these last multiple years of like that same trend happening, like how confusing it feels for me to have sex with someone, because I don't have really, like, I'm in like a working definition of safety, right? So like I still have those fears of like, okay, am I gonna have sex with someone and they're just gonna like now all of a sudden they're going to become this entirely different person and I don't know who they are and they're just going to avoid me and move away. Like, I still don't have like a full confidence like in my radar on that. And yeah, like I just don't have that full trust in my body to be like I have a lot of fear around it, even though I want to, like, and it feels good. And I feel like with the current person, like, okay, this is safety, like I'm figuring it out, but there's just so much apprehension about it. And it's like, again, like I think the fears of like, okay, am I doing this too soon? And is it just going to end up the same way that it was before? And I'm just going to feel like my body was entirely used, right? And I'm going to tell you a story about this guy in like a little bit. That's amazing. But in another post, but I really wanted to share that. So I think a lot of people can relate to that. And it is very difficult and challenging to really move out of that and, you know, create this safety. But a huge piece of that is going into your self-pleasure practice, literally talking to your vagina, your pussy, and having your own practices that you create safety in your body, and you also create that union in your masculine and feminine energy, right? Because you're going to be coming from a place as you do these practices where you're intimate with yourself, you're vulnerable with yourself. Like emotions are going to come up that are trapped in the body of like shame and guilt and etc. around the sexual experiences that you had. And that's going to come up, and you are both the protector, the provider, and the receiver in your self-pleasure practice. Like you are creating space to protect yourself, and you're creating a safe container for yourself to receive pleasure and literally rewire your brain around pleasure and experiences of pleasure, right? So it is challenging because things come up. And as you can see, like I was getting emotional just like thinking about the experiences of my last relationship and the many ways in which I feel like I've disrespected my body. And that's what these practices are for, right? They are here to help us move those emotions through our body and feel them so that we can create those new experiences, literally create new neural pathways in our brain and rewire our pleasure centers of our brain and rewire these experiences in ourself and in our relationships. So I don't mean to go that long again, but like this stuff is like fucking amazing. And yeah, feel free to comment if you've had experiences around this. I think this stuff is super important for our relationship with our bodies, our relationship to ourselves, discovering or peeling back the fucking bullshit that stops us from being our true authentic selves, and also having very meaningful and intimate, truly intimate relationships with our partners. And I want to share more about my conversations with my friends over the weekend and their relationships, because I think we're all kind of living in this like place of, you know, we don't really need this great sex in our lives, or like, oh, after you're in a relationship for a while, like sex gets boring. Like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, we don't have to do that. We're just in a society that's disconnected from our bodies and is like looking for quick fixes, and like no one talks about this stuff. So people don't feel comfortable like opening up in their relationships about what they really want and need, and like exploring our bodies. Okay, bye.